Woohoo! It's Unicorn Time, Season 2, and I am so lucky because with me today I have two beautiful gentlemen, Philip and Bjarke, and we're going to talk about the Unicorn project. But before we dive too much into what is Unicorn and maybe even press a button, then maybe you could introduce yourself. So if we start with you, Bjarke.
Yep, my name is Bjarke and I'm a developer on the CMS team, and I'm also the project lead of this project, Project Unicorn, about migrating Umbraco to .NET Core.
Yeah, and I'm Philip. I just started a month ago as the program manager for Umbraco CMS. So I am just super excited to be part of this journey. It's going to be fun.
And I don't think there's ever been a time in the Umbraco history with a manager with a bigger ratio between days at the office and releases. So congratulations.
Keep that going.
But enough about us. Let's talk a little bit about the Unicorn project, because you've been working on that for quite a while.
I am. So yes, it's about migrating Umbraco to .NET Core, and it's a big migration for us, especially the web parts are changed a lot, and we know that .NET Core is the future. Microsoft announced that last year, and there will be no more releases of framework, and from November this year it will also be renamed to .NET, because it's not just the core anymore. And
so Unicorn is the whole transition from the old stack to the less new and shiny stack.
Yeah, at least the backend stack will be up to date afterwards.
And how long have you been working on this?
Oh, I think the first lines of code was written in November last year, but we prepared it from retreat. Before Code Garden last year, we had the first RFCs out about the whole strategy, how to do it.
And now I have a very leading question. Is it only the HQ that are working on this, or?
Of course not. We are a couple of developers from HQ, me, and we have Elitsa and we have Nikolai right now, which works almost all of our hours. And then we have a community team, the Unicorn team, with we have Andy Butland.
Oh, I have him here. Let's have them join the stream, right? So
and we have Andy. Emma Garland.
She's here.
And we have Steve Temple. Yeah. And we have Benjamin Kaleski.
And then we have a special guest star, right? Worth mentioning.
Yeah, we have Scott Brady, who contributed on a big PR regarding migrating users from ASP.NET Identity to ASP.NET Core Identity. So that was a big help, and we can use a lot of that code later in the phases also, because we also have members that needs to be migrated from membership providers into ASP.NET Core Identity. So that is really good groundwork for us.
Exciting. So is this a complete rewrite of Umbraco?
It's not, because Umbraco is a moving target and we have hundreds of PRs. So we thought it was easier to migrate and then keep it up to date with Umbraco 8. I have 2 tasks every sprint, or one for each week, to keep it up to date with the 8 branches.
So this also means that while the Unicorn project moves forward, it's not like what the non-Unicorn project, or the artist known as Umbraco 8, isn't being improved.
No, as Bjarke said, Umbraco 8 will keep moving. Probably over the next months, we'll see more and more of the CMS team start helping Bjarke and his team. But if you've been following along, you know we have an 8.7 release up very soon.
But we can't talk about that.
No, we can't talk about that
Nope.
today. But lots have happened, and we still have some plans that we want to do on the 8th branch.
Cool. So apparently today we are launching an alpha version.
Yes.
And it's always interesting. What's the definition of alpha or betas? Or I even remember a long time ago we had different tracks for Umbraco 8, and the idea is not to repeat that.
Yeah.
So
We'll try to make a process and stick to it.
Yeah.
it's a good thing we have many.
So today we're releasing the alpha version, the first alpha version, in a series of probably lots of alphas. So what we have today we talk about as 0.5 alpha. So which means we will. It consists of mainly the back office. So you can do the installer and you can have a back office up and running. There's no rendering and no previews and no packages yet. But we have a back office that's running. I even got it running on my Mac, which is a fantastic breakthrough, I think. And then like the plan moving forward is that we'll be releasing lots of alphas as we get feedback and as we listen to that and revise what we're doing. And then when we have a version that we think is stable enough, we'll call it a beta. Stable enough, we kind of determine that as when we start developing packages ourselves. So when we start migrating forms and our own packages, that's when we'll release a beta, and that's where we say now you can actually start, building your packages or seeing if your stuff can upgrade. And then we'll eventually have RCs and like a regular process.
Yeah, and when the alpha or when the betas are released, we will also start mentioning what to do to migrate your code between the betas. So it's still too early with the alpha release to start developing packages and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I also think I installed it, and you can't build a website with the alpha.
Converted yet, so you can't do any of that.
So it's primarily a working back office, and in that there's also a lot of plumbing underneath. You mentioned a lot of work around identity in particular.
Yeah.
So what's the purpose of launching an alpha if I can't build a site?
So, as a rule of thumb, issues are easier to resolve as soon as you find them as possible. And we would like to show something. It's not just a project we talk about. And to be honest, it have been pretty hard for us to find up for grabs tasks so far. So the idea is, if we find something, some issues, it will most likely end up as an up for grabs task, and of course we will pick it up if no one wants to help. But we know there is a lot out there who want to help. But most of our tasks is too complicated to get started, or they have a tight deadline or something like that. This is not the case if we find any bug fixes or issues.
Yeah, because there are a lot of things that you can help with, right? I asked on Twitter if anybody has some question, and James South asked. He didn't ask. He said EF core, and then you had a really, an interesting feedback to that. And before we started here, we had a sort of a conversation about how in baby steps we could get closer, and you actually mentioned there is an up for grabs.
Yeah, there is an up for grabs. My suggestion was, before we migrate to EF Core, we had to clean up the architecture a bit and only use the object relationship mapper in the repositories instead of all over the code base. We almost do that today, but not completely. So we have some controllers which use or writes its own SQL. So that's an up for grabs task. It's not super important. It can happen now, it can happen in a couple of months, but it's something that is nice if we can fix that in this release, because it will be breaking changes to change these things.
Yeah, and for those who watch and think, what is EF Core? Is that something else? It's the new version of Entity Framework.
Exactly.
Which
so
is
it's not a migration, it's a rebuild, and it started again as a core thing. Only the most important APIs was there, but now almost everything is there, and it opens up for using MySQL and other types of databases instead of only MS SQL.
So one day we'll get there. But I also think setting expectations, it's important that it's not a goal at all for the first version of vNext.
Exactly.
And by the way, if anybody ever work with Entity Framework and think, why does we even talk about the SharePoint of ORMs, I think it's fair to say that EF Core is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And definitely something else. You mentioned something interesting, Philip. You talked about 0.5.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like we're not just talking about semantic versioning, but but we're actually getting closer.
Yes, we are. We really want to be semantic and to actually be able to signal what's a breaking change and what's just feature adding and semantic versioning. And we've decided to move along that route. And that's probably going to be that will be part of the .NET Core release. But we don't know. We haven't figured it all out yet. So we'll probably alongside the beta we'll have something to say more publicly about that. If you have ideas, of course, anybody's free to chime in on that.
Exciting. So very soon there will be an alpha. You can install it even on a Mac. So how can you, if that makes you excited, how can you then participate and contribute to this project?
Yeah, first of all, by testing the alpha release, try to set up document types like you do in your real production sites to have a more complex testing, because we know that, you can create document types, but our tests have been insert a grid or insert a text string and so on, and we know that for all over the code base. Some of the latest bug fixes I found was only if SMTP was configured, then there's notifications on content. So try to reach the edges of Umbraco will be a big help.
So I've heard a rumor that the database for the Unicore is actually the same, or the schema is the same as a V8.
Yeah, it's the same as the upcoming 8.7 right now. So no changes in this project at all.
Does this also mean that if I download the alpha in a moment and I try it, then I can actually try the new block editor before
there's a final release? Yes, you get. If you download the alpha today, you actually get what's more or less the RC of 8.7. So you get the block list editor and segments and all the new stuff from 8.7.
Yeah. That's super cool. Isn't it evil to just keep talking and keep the suspense?
You think we should start talking about the blue button?
Yeah. Maybe we should start talking about the blue button. I do have one last question, because if I'm an Umbraco developer and I haven't really looked at .NET Core, this idea might scare me. So I have two questions. For you, Bjarke, you're an experienced .NET Core developer by now, but what would you have wished you knew, sort of going from framework to core?
Yeah, one of the important things to notice is that the changes from .NET Core from framework to .NET Core is not that big. It's in the web framework, in ASP.NET Core, which was actually until version 2 available for framework also, but it's not anymore. But this is a complete rewrite of the MVC patterns, and Umbraco will handle most of the changes because the basic pattern is almost untouched. So controllers looks like they always did, and views look, models of course, completely like they always did. But there's also new features available, especially about dependency injection. Dependency injection is a native citizen in the new ASP.NET Core. So you can inject into views instead of Umbraco having a static service locator available. So this is one of the nice features. And there's lots of other features. There's new concepts like tech helpers available if you do your website in ASP.NET Core. We know a lot of Umbraco developers also use the modern front-end frameworks. But if you use the ASP.NET as the front-end, then you have lots of new features.
But I don't have to be scared, more or less. I mean, if I, let's say, I implement a site a bit like the Uno starter kit we have on cloud, which is a lot of document types, mostly 99% just views. Then it's more or less the same way it will work.
Right now, the only thing we are aware of that you need to update is the views. We know namespaces will change, but your IDE can help you with that. We know you will have to inject services instead of using the current service locator we have. And right now, we have to inject some services into some of the extension methods. We are looking for alternatives if there is a better way to do it. But it's important for us that Umbraco will be easier to test in the future.
But to answer your question, no, you don't have to be scared. As the regular, probably the average Umbraco developer, migrating or upgrading or using the new .NET Core version when it's final is going to be very much like using Umbraco today. There might be some slight template syntax stuff that might change, but in overall it's the same. It's just a modern tech stack instead of this kind of legacy tech stack that we're on now.
Cool. I mean, that's great news. Yeah. I think also great news for a lot of people. And then the last question, and that's for you, Philip, because you're a manager.
When is it ready?
When is it ready?
So, of course, we have like a real company. We have like a big Gantt diagram with lines that are filled in and stuff, and. If we look at it today, we're about halfway there. And as Bjarke said, it's probably been 9 months or 10 months since the first lines of code were written. So if that's probably going to be the closest I'm going to get to setting some kind of deadline. But we expect to have to start making betas in the beginning of next year. So probably in the first quarter of 2021. And then depending on how much feedback we get from that and how big changes we are, hopefully sometime next year.
So it could be a fun code garden, perhaps.
We hope to have something ready for Code Garden. Probably not a final release, but probably maybe an RC or something like that.
But that also means that I don't have to panic. If I do Umbraco projects today,
yes.
Just keep using 8.
If you start new sites today, or even in 3 months or 6 months, you should probably still start on the 8 branch. As Bjarke said, the database scheme is the same, so we should be able to do a fairly easy upgrade once all the packages have been updated. So I would not worry at all about starting on the 8 branch still. And
we're going to be much friendlier towards package developers for Unicorn than we were with 8.
It's the point about the betas we start. We will encourage and we will proactively reach out to package developers by Q1 or whenever the beta is ready, and start talking about how we migrate packages.
Cool. Let's release. Normally we have big confetti cannons, but because of Corona we are out of confetti funds, so there will be no big bang. Sorry about that, but once you press the button, you can go to umbraco.com/blog, and that's where you can find all the details around how you install and get started with Unicorn.
Yep.
So
congratulations to you and the entire team. Let's push the button.
Let's hope the internet is fast then.
Woohoo! We still have confetti.
And that was Unicorn for now. Thank you very much, Bjarke, Philip. Yeah. Congratulations, amazing work, and can't wait to hear about the feedback.
Yeah, me too.
Until next time, we'll be back in 2 weeks with Kim, nonetheless. Take care out there. Boom.